It's baseball season, it's playoff season, and we have on FANSIDED's content director, the co-host of the Yanks Go Yard podcast. You can follow him on X at Tommy's_takes, as he's shown right here on the camera. It is Thomas Carannante joining us today. How we doing, Tommy?
Good, man. What's up, boys? It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. I thought, Tommy Scoops was onto something. I was getting ready to tune into the Yanks and saying, "Oh, this is the night they're gonna put me away." But yeah, man. I was watching the Dodgers, and I'm just sitting here being like, "Wish that was the Yankees. That was like the Yankees of 25 years ago, and now we're just watching it pass us by."
It certainly seems like they're a juggernaut, right? It just seems like the way that they're playing, that they like, oh yeah, we got three guys that could be closers, whatever. One of them didn't play all season. He thought he was going to be a starter. It's all right. We'll just put him in the ninth inning. He'll throw 101 and he'll be our closer. It's fine. We have those guys. Why not? We'll just defer money. It doesn't matter. We just want to win championships. I wish the Yankees were doing that. I bet. Don't you think George Steinbrenner, if he was alive today, would have been jumping on this deferred money trick? I don't know. Yeah,
you'd have to think so, but you look back on all the things George Steinbrenner did. Would he be making the right deferred deals? I don't know. I'd hope so, but but yeah, I mean, like the Dodgers have that perfect mix of the aggression and spotting the personnel. And to me, just watching the Yankees I started covering baseball back in 2014, so it was like in that no man's land era for the Yankees. Jeter's last year. And then ever since they've started contending again in 2017 to now, seems like a personnel issue with them, and can't put your finger on it. You don't really know, but I know there's always fans out there wishing George Steinbrenner was still there. And I'm like, there could have been a lot of disaster deals based on the bad contracts we've seen given out by the rest of the league. So who knows what free agents he would have been in on at that point in time. But yeah, man, it's tough to watch a team like that, deliver like Teoscar Hernandez did in game one. And then they apply the pressure, and they have talent at every corner of the roster that you can't seem to avoid.
Yeah, I want to ask about the pitching woes in particular with the starters that we've seen this series. Obviously, you had better pitching luck against the Red Sox, especially with Game 3. But the struggles that they had, bullpen more Game 1, and then Max Fried having probably his worst start of the year in Game 2. Like, what did you see from this? Is it more on them, or is it more on the Blue Jays offense just coming out?
It's a good question, and I don't really know because the Yankees have just been downright bad at the Rogers Center this year. Don't know what it is. I think when you're in a situation to have a bullpen game in Game 1, you're at a disadvantage because the Blue Jays had the rest time and they were able to go at you with Kevin Gausman. So I feel like if the Yankees were able to steal Game 1, that would have been the biggest bonus possible. They would have been in the best position imaginable at that point. Game 2 that was where it was bad. Max Fried doesn't have his best stuff. You can't really, I can't blame him because it's his first year in pinstripes. Again, you're asking a lot of what the Yankees are doing, man, is that they're asking the pitchers to go out there and be perfect with what the offense is doing, which is really where I think the issue lies. The less margin, they're not playing relaxed. There's a razor-thin margin for error. Fried was a little bit of execution. He was having trouble locating for a good portion. For me, it comes down to, I think the Blue Jays were obviously well-rested and pumped and excited to go into the – look, everybody hates playing the Yankees, so all our opponents have that extra juice in them. But when we didn't have a bona fide Game 1 starter going in the first one, then it put all the pressure on Fried, and I think it's just tough for anybody to handle that. Jabba knows as a pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know what they were going to do. Who were they going to use? I don't know if that was a numbers thing, a kind of however they decided to use in that situation. But they haven't given up 23 runs ever. There's been, the woes of Aaron Judge and all that, but he has 4 hits. He's leading the team this year in hits. I feel like there's something missing, and we touched on this earlier. We don't need a rah meeting. If we need a meeting in October, then we obviously aren't doing what we need to do in the first place. Do you think there's some kind of disconnect in trying to rely on Judge too much, where other dudes are like, and we know guys are good in the playoffs where you're waiting for him to go before everybody else goes, because sometimes then it's like, okay, he's going now, they're not going. Well, he ain't going now, everybody else starts going. Like, they never seem to cohesively go together, and I don't know what's missing there.
Yeah, it's again, it's the calendar flips to October and you see a completely different team almost, and it's not just this iteration of the roster, right? This has been some version of it since. I mean, really, 2017 wasn't Aaron Boone, but that year the offense was the reason they didn't get past the Astros, and obviously the cheating. But the offense was the biggest reason there, because they were unable to produce runs, and they didn't have a dominant pitching staff that year. Looking at everything since Aaron Judge, Aaron Boone, dating back to 2018, if they have that disconnect, like you're alluding to, like the potential of everybody like looking around waiting for someone like Judge, that would be an organizational issue, because they have gone through so many different iterations of this roster. They've put so many different pieces around Judge. I know Giancarlo Stanton's been the main constant over that time period. But he has carried the team on two different occasions. One was last year. The other was 2020. They didn't make it out of 2020 because of the rest of the lineup not being able to come through and some late bullpen meltdowns. But for everybody to not be dialed in themselves and looking at Aaron Judge, I think that would be a very weird kind of cosmic issue. And it very much could be, because whatever the personalities the Yankees are acquiring over these last few years, you do have that lack of, killer instinct stepping up. I know it's easier to say for people who had watched baseball years ago, because now hitting's, easily the hardest thing to do in any sport at this point. And I think me as a content creator, Jabba, you played, so you've been around these guys and stuff like that. But, changing your approach when somebody's throwing 100 miles an hour is like, you can only do that so successfully when you're facing, when you have so few opportunities. So we do look at it at a lens where I think we acknowledge how difficult that is, but also at the same time, like, where is the differentiating player profiles in the offense in the Yankees? I think it's the redundancy with the power and the reliance on the home run ball. Because in theory, the second Judge starts producing at all, the rest of the offense should start going. And he was actually getting hits in the wild card series, and the offense didn't really respond as emphatically as we had thought. So I really don't know what it is. To me, I have to chalk it up to a personnel issue from going all the way back to the front office and who they're targeting every offseason or in trade talks. But I feel like it's a mystery, and I don't know what you guys think, but we've watched a lot of Yankees baseball, and it's hard to pinpoint it.
Actually, before we get into it, we are being joined by Thomas Carannante, FANSIDED content director, co-host of the Yanks Go Yard podcast. Follow him at Tommy's_takes on X. I got a question for you related to what you're saying, because a lot of fans, myself included, have given a lot of blame to Aaron Boone this season. Some of it's overblown, some of it's not. On my end, I can't understand some of the decisions he's made this postseason, like leaving Rodon in Game 2 in the wild card series when he had clearly lost it, got that one-pitch double play, and then he brought him back, and he couldn't, he's throwing wild pitches, and he gets two guys on, and then we lose the lead. I mean, we came back, but that wasn't a great decision. And then he continues to bring Luke Weaver in tight spots, and he hasn't gotten out this entire postseason. With the rule that you got to face three batters, it's just three guys getting on against Luke Weaver because he's trying to stop this tipping of the pitches. We talked about it earlier tonight. I don't know if you can fix that, on the fly under postseason pressure. So my question to you is, what do you think is on Boone, and what common criticism should be directed elsewhere?
Yeah, I think it's time and consequence for some of these things, right? So, I look at this postseason, and I think the one blame you can put on Boone for what's happened so far is that he misjudged when taking out Fried / bringing in Weaver, which you just mentioned, and leaving Rodon in for too long. And then I think the biggest obviously, in hindsight now, the biggest issue was yesterday bringing in Will Warren as early as he did. Because at that point, you got to just get out of the inning. You can't have the damage mount, and Will Warren he's just not primed for that opportunity. He's not a reliever. He hasn't pitched in a week. He's going up against the Blue Jays in this pressure-packed situation, trying to stop, from getting the team stomped on, and it just wasn't it. You need someone to get you out of there. And then look, the offense scores 7 runs, and if you hold them to 6 in that inning, you might have a different ball game. Who knows? The other side of the coin is he doesn't have that many weapons, right? I think a lot of times, all of us collectively, we get on him for making the wrong bullpen decision, and I think that was more valid in years prior. This year, it's not. It's hard for him to make the right choice every single night because of the limited options he's had. And David Bednar is the only one who you're saying, this guy's getting me 3 outs. Everybody else don't know what's going to happen. And we could sit here and say the blame for bringing in Weaver both in game 1 of the Sox series because of how bad he had been in September, and then him being the first guy you go to in that razor-thin lead against the Blue Jays was troublesome because that guy's not delivering from you at that point. You're going to have to pivot. I don't know what the answer is because I think if Devin Williams comes in and melts down, you don't know what social media is going to look like. Those people are going to be going insane, saying, "Oh, this was the choice." So I think it's a can't-win situation with Boone right now in terms of the bullpen management. In terms of the messaging and I think the trusting of the starters, that's where really that's where I would assess the blame. So you look at the offense, obviously it's been years and years and years of them lacking preparedness or just not rising to the occasion. Yes, that falls on the players, but at some point I feel like the manager has to figure out a way to interject to light something under the guys who are not coming through, whether that be through lineup changes or what have you. We talked, the Anthony Volpe conversation I think is something that relates to this a little bit, but not fully. It's showing that there is discipline to go around when you're not performing. And I'm not saying discipline somebody in the postseason, but you had warning signs of some of these other things happening in the regular season. If there was more of a stern, I think, management type of approach, players might be more inclined to step up, or they might be better conditioned to step up is probably the best way to put it. So I think throughout the regular season, Boone deserves the blame for maybe the summer swoon that lasted almost 3 months, that if they win one more game, the Blue Jays are at Yankee Stadium for these first 2 games, and the Yankees aren't in Toronto where they've been having trouble all year. So I think and there's also, final point here, it's tough to kind of pinpoint what the decisions Boone's making, right? Because the game 1 lineup of the Red Sox series was not Aaron Boone.
Right.
I think that was probably Brian Cashman. And you don't know what calls are being made from the front office to the dugout when Max Fried gets Jarren Duran in the first out of the 7th. So it's really tough to pinpoint, but I guess the only thing that Boone would be able to control is the energy and the messaging and the preparedness and the approach, and that's where I think oftentimes in bigger moments this team is lacking.
So I want to shift to the front office perspective with Cashman and with some of the executives too. A lot of people were questioning with the trade deadline with the Yankees, Ahmed Rosario, Ryan McMahon are kind of like these bench players. I liked Duvall at the time. I would have been wrong on that too because I always thought he had good stuff, and then obviously Bednar's worked out. But you see teams like Seattle that are very aggressive at the deadline where they did kind of bolstering their lineup, and obviously there are other extremes like my New York Mets, unfortunately, that traded everything and didn't, and those times those guys all turned out to be busts. So what do you think? Is there a move like you would have made if you were the Yankees that maybe would have bolstered them to maybe get the division title or even get a better playoff identity?
You mean at the trade deadline?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's tough. I thought a lot of what was available at the trade deadline was, just setting up rival executives to overpay for something that they weren't necessarily going to get the value that they needed from it. I think the biggest problem was, for example, coming into this season with essentially no starting third baseman and no bench. And then that forced them to make all the moves that they had to make at the trade deadline, as opposed to them using the trade deadline, if this makes sense, as kind of a luxury item to acquire one or two more players, whether pitching, positional, that are going to get you over the hump and make you a juggernaut. I think a good comparison is like what the Dodgers did in 2021 when they got Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. Like, that opportunity was not there this year. I understand that, but that's how the Yankees should be treating the trade deadline. And ever since like 2021, when they traded for Anthony Rizzo, they've kind of used the trade deadline out of necessity to repair the roster in the middle of the year. So then at that point, it's a tale of two rosters. You go with whatever you have on opening day, and then you say, oh, well, 3-4 of these guys will be gone. 4 or 5 of these guys will be gone at the trade deadline. And then you're talking about working in a whole new mix of players. So there honestly wasn't anybody that I would have gone overboard for at the trade deadline. I like this team a lot. It just came down to execution and them being able to weather the storm for the long season. And I thought also all these other moves were good. Like, I like Ryan McMahon a lot. The third base defense he's been providing has been game saving. If we had, I think if we had anybody else there, we're looking at a different situation for either the playoff seeding or our fate in the wild card series. I think Rosario was a great bench option to acquire as a platoon guy. Bednar was a huge acquisition. I think you're right too. Like, everyone was on board with Doval at that time. It just didn't work out, and who knows? He could end up being okay. He's under club control. But yeah, I think the biggest issue is the lack of personnel when they're heading into the trade deadline, because most other years they're not making transformative decisions like they did this year. Most other years they're getting one or two more guys, and then they're kind of calling it quits, and it's not enough for what they need. They
how to put this? I've heard everybody's kind of thoughts on it, from Mark Feinzan to everybody online. Sweep happens. Let's just foresee it. It's what happens in the offseason is I don't think they're unloading anybody. I don't think, as far as front office, that is. And then do they make a push for another bullpen guy? Do they try and get a free agent as far as an infielder? Like, where do you see, if it happens tomorrow, what would you like to see the offseason look like compared to what you think it'll look like?
Man, I haven't even thought that far, because I thought for a second on Thursday that we'd be doing something special. Because, eliminating the Red Sox, like, that was huge. You kind of felt the weight off your shoulders when that happened, because of how traumatizing it's been since 2004. But I think first of all, Boone's not going anywhere. For anybody listening here, I know that's probably number one on a lot of people's lists. It ain't happening. You might be lucky if it's after 2026. When he has there's an option on his contract after next season. So then at that point, depending on how next year transpires, they'll make the decision there. For this offseason, and this is where I'm also conflicted because of how the postseason has gone down. Like, now I am a little bit confused. You bring back Trent Grisham and Cody Bellinger. We talked about for a couple weeks on the Yankees Yard podcast about giving him the qualifying offer. And then you have your outfield pitcher for another year. You give him an opportunity to earn a lot and then hit free agency again. And you don't have to get locked into a long-term pact. And I think Bellinger, even though the postseason performance wasn't there so far, honestly, in an abbreviated 5 games, it's hard to judge people like that. I think you kind of do have to bring him back because of how intrinsic he was to the rest of the lineup. He was important in terms of having the Yankees remain relevant. If his bat's not there, I'm not sure. Again, we're not where we are without him. And I don't think free agency, again, the Yankees don't go out and dish out a lot of long-term contracts for big-name players. So even if there were like a generational talent available this offseason, I think now that the fact that they just paid Max Fried on a deal like that, they're going to be conservative in their approach. So they're going to figure out how to get either shorter-term deals or acquire guys through trades now that they're farm system's been a little bit more highly regarded by the outlets after their last couple drafts and international free agency periods. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is I think the rotation's fine. I don't think you have to do anything with that. You got Cole returning. Cam Schlittler is obviously going to be the guy, hopefully, for years to come. The bullpen is really the issue here. I think you got to get two relievers who are capable of being flexible in innings 7 through 9. And again, I don't know who that's going to be. I don't know who's going to be available in the offseason. We have to wait for kind of prices on a lot of these guys to normalize as we get closer to the winter meetings. And then I think you need, I don't know, a couple more contact bats. I feel like we say this every offseason, but what's Anthony Volpe's future? I'm not sure. What's the platoon going to be like with Ben Rice and Austin Wells? I think that they're going to make it work with all their young players. I think there was overblown chatter, I think, of rumors that they might. Bob Klapisch wrote about it. He said that there may be a possibility they explore a trade, but I don't know who's going to acquire him, and I don't think that's of the Yankees' mindset to get rid of a homegrown player like that. But they do have to improve their bullpen for sure, because that's been a strength of theirs that they've kind of let go this year. And then they need more of like, the best way to put it is like Jock Peterson-esque guys from like 2021, 2022, the guys who can come off the bench and give you an at-bat in a big spot. Oftentimes, Adam Weinrib and I, my co-host on the XCR podcast, we joke and we just say, the bench is just a bunch of random guys until they decide otherwise. And that's kind of the problem until they realize, oh, we need battle-tested veterans on this bench to hit 95-mile-an-hour sinkers in the 8th inning when we have a runner on third and our 9 hitters up. So I
wish we could all have a Matt Stairs on our bench.
I mean, they're out there every so often, so I think they just have to look a little bit harder. But you've seen that be the difference in how many postseasons. And again, like,
oh, we just got muted by accident. Looks like. There you go.
Unplug. Sorry, I was getting heated. Just watching the Dodgers game, and we see that they have guys who are primed for the moment. I don't know where Teoscar's balls came from. I really don't. Like, he led the league in strikeouts like 2.5 years ago, and now all of a sudden he's a postseason god. Good for him. I've had an amazing time watching him, but I don't know like where that came from in terms of the Dodgers detecting that. But a guy like Kike Hernandez, who is influential every October. It's almost automatic every time he's coming to the plate. He's getting a hit or he's in the moment somehow, and he's figuring out a way to either deliver or to move a runner over or to test the defense. Like, I don't know what it is, and I don't know how you identify those guys as front office personnel, but I think it's fairly safe to say the Yankees have identified very little of those guys in the Aaron Judge era. And Aaron Judge hasn't had that type of support. I don't know where it takes them in terms of what I don't want to see is Bellinger and Grisham leaving and them like trying to piecemeal that together with either lower leverage signings or hoping for the best with Dominguez and Spencer Jones. Like, that's what I don't want. All these younger guys and even the top hitters on the team need a bit of a softer landing with support around them. And it's like a weird imbalance that they have at the moment.
We are talking to FANSIDED content director, co-host of the Yanks Go Yard podcast, Thomas Carannante. Looks like the Dodgers just closed out the game right there. It's 4-3 final. They almost blew it. They brought in Roki Sasaki to face Trey Turner with 2 on and 2 out in the 9th, and he gets them. And they now up 2-0. And the Dodgers look like they're in this, everything that we thought is happening.
Automatic, man.
So let's talk about something positive, and his name's Cam Schlittler. Nothing made me happier nothing in general makes me happier than when we get the best of Boston. And this guy, who's from there, absolutely shoves on them, yelling F Boston on the mound as he's walking off in between innings. If he's not yelling, like under his breath, he's just calm and composed. I was saying earlier he looked kind of like Garrett Cole with his composure, just looking like, because he got similar hair, but he just looked really composed for a rookie in that situation. And then after the game, goes online, trolls their fans. I mean, it's like something that I drew up in like some kind of fever dream of like the next great pitcher I want the Yankees to have. Like look, he was good when he came up. I didn't see this coming. I mean, this guy was throwing, they said, 92 a few years ago, and now he's up at the high 90s over, something like 64 of his pitches were 98 or faster in this game, second most of all time, which is just absurd. Is this? I mean, I got to ask you, Tommy, how real is this guy? Because it's incredible.
The ascension cannot be denied, and I think it's a massive player development win for the Yankees, and they've needed that for a while with all these younger guys who have come up in the last few years and haven't really delivered. When Schlittler came up earlier this year and immediately set, I think the Yankees record in the StatCast era for most triple-digit pitches, I was just like, where was any of this scouting for the last 15 years? How did, because when all these other contenders reach the postseason, I feel like there's a good amount. They have like one flame-throwing young guy in the bullpen or one middle of the rotation starter who has nasty stuff. And the Yankees just have not been able to get that out of their draft picks or international signings. And to see Schlittler succeed to the degree that he has with him almost being like a fringe prospect not too long ago is amazing. I think it's hard. You don't want to overhype him after that outing just because he's 15 starts into his MLB career. We've seen crazier things happen in terms of players getting injured or them losing their juice. But this is kind of the vibe that I think every Yankee fan's been looking for, right? We've wanted that FU pitcher on the mound for the big games that the Yankees have failed against their rivals. If you look at all of the Yankees' playoff defeats under Aaron Boone and in the modern era, it's against Astros, Red Sox, Rays, Dodgers most recently, and then the only teams that they're beating are the Guardians, the Royals, the Twins. So that's where I think the mental edge comes in, and you need that with a pitcher who's fearless when facing an opposing lineup, especially a lineup like Boston or Houston, where they walk into every game and they say, we're going to own this game at whatever point, and it's going to be the end of it for you, Yankees. We've seen that transpire far too often. But I think Schlittler is legit. His pitch mix is incredible. The velocity is incredible. The attitude is awesome. I think he did a great way of introducing himself to this fan base. I don't want to get too ahead of myself and start anointing him the next ace. But if he's pitching around Fried and Cole for the next few years, that's what you're looking at. If they can cultivate him the right way and keep him on his trajectory, this is going to be a massive win for the Yankees development system. All
right, my last question, just general pick for the rest of the postseason. Is it the Dodgers? Is there another team that you think can make noise? Who you got?
Yeah, I mean, after Friday night, I said in my head the Dodgers. That was just a back-breaking loss for the Phillies, and I think that was a tone-setting win for the Dodgers. My pick before that was the Mariners, and I don't think I can get on board with it. Maybe they win the AL, but I don't know who's defeating the Dodgers. Yeah. The Mariners are a fun team. They've been really a feel-good story this year, but you look at the Dodgers just right now, I think they tricked everybody with thinking that their bullpen was bad because now Glasnow, Clayton Kershaw, and Roki Sasaki are in the bullpen all of a sudden. And now everybody who's sitting there saying, Vesia and Trinan have been struggling, and, the middle group of it, they booted a couple of guys from the wild card roster when they moved on to the DS roster, and now they just leveled up in three ways that nobody really saw coming. They're the champs until someone tells me otherwise.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when you look at it. It's the parity in the game is kind of one-sided towards, they look at it's the deferred money. And it kind of got brought up the other day too, and today I saw is do you feel like what the Dodgers are doing, more people should follow that because it puts them in this situation every year?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, I think only a select few teams can do this. There's the teams with the top 5 attendance marks every year, and sometimes that even changes. So it would be tough for the only teams that are able to do it are probably Yankees, Mets, Dodgers. The Padres have crept up there, but I know they've had some financial issues over the last few years, and Phillies. And we just saw the Mets take a version of the mega spending, and they had one of the most historic collapses of all time. So it comes down to, again, I think if it's you have the right front office personnel spotting the right players to overspend on or to defer money on, if you want to put yourself in a precarious financial situation, then great. But I don't know how far other teams can go. Like the Mets almost had a $400 million payroll, and they somehow didn't make the playoffs. The Reds, who had a third of their payroll, made the playoffs. So it comes down to, I think really the bigger conversation here is that just because you spend, everybody who's like, oh, the Dodgers and Yankees have the top payrolls every year, they're ruining the game. Steve Cohen going out and buying whoever he wants is ruining the game. And it's like, no, it's not. Before I popped on the air, Jobber, you were talking about 2009. The Yankees spent $1 billion that offseason. And I think that was one of the few times ever that having that type of approach worked. But it was also a testament to all of the players who came in and had to assimilate with the roster and get to know everybody, and then also step up in the biggest moments in their first impression. That's an absolutely incredible thing to do. And the fact that the Dodgers were kind of able to replicate that over the last couple of years, in a sense, it speaks to their going after the right guys. So I think, as a fan, I want my owner to spend, but you got to have the right guys in that front office choosing who to spend on, because I think we've seen enough times over the last few years how it could blow up in your face.
Tommy, we really, really appreciate you coming.
Thank you, guys.
We know that you're the fan-sided content director. You're the co-host of the Yankees Go Yard podcast. We can find you on X at Tommy's_takes.
Yes, sir.
Tommy, what else can we do to check out your stuff?
Like and subscribe to the Yanks Go Yard YouTube channel. We're going live every Monday and Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. That's our usual schedule, but off season's here, playoffs are here, off season will be here. We go live at different times. So if you like the channel, then you get an alert for when we are podcasting at outside of our normal hours. And yanksgoyard.com, written content all over there, all things Yankees. So much stuff in terms of roster conundrums, injury news, opinion pieces, all the stuff that fans like to read on their commute to work. So that's where I'm at, and appreciate you guys taking the time to have me on tonight. It was awesome.
Tommy, you were fantastic. Let's cross our fingers and, do some voodoo to get the Yankees through these next couple of games, perhaps. I don't know. I'm not super hopeful, but I've been wrong about virtually everything. So hopefully that streak continues, at least for the Yankees' sake. Again, thanks a lot, man, and we'll try to get you on another time real soon.
Sounds good, guys. Let's go Yanks.
Let's go Yanks. And, guys, that was Thomas Carannante. Well, he was really good, man. I asked the question, and nobody seems to want to blame Boone, I feel like it's just in my heart, just as a Yankee fan growing up, that you throw the manager under the bus. So what? Billy Martin got fired 7 times, I think, something like that.
They all kept coming back.
They come back. He's part of the family. Look, you fight with family, and then you bring them back. That was how it was for a long time with the Yankees. Yogi Berra, there's all sorts of stuff like that with the Yankees.
Gene Monahan used to tell, he was there for 50 years, and literally he would tell stories, and he'd be like, yeah, boss would come down, somebody's injury, whatever, he would fire me. He goes, it just got to the point where it didn't even matter. I just showed up the next day, and he'd come down, and nothing ever happened. And he goes, that's pretty much what it was. So everybody kind of just went about their way unless he really got mad, then he knew it. But yeah, he fired everybody, and everybody's like, that's the boss being the boss. We're going to come back until he literally tells us to go.
It's just a different times. Those are the classic Yankee days. Hopefully they can turn it around.